So the first thing we need to do is set up the layers. Okay, so we've got the layer with the drawing on, so we call that drawing. Then we need to create 4 more layers. 4 more layers. Okay, so we've got a total of 5 layers. One of the layers is drawing, one's called background, another is called colour, another is called glaze, and the final one is called mask. Okay, we need to put those in a certain order, so I'll just rearrange those. We put mask at the top, okay, drawing underneath mask, background at the bottom. I'll go in order, background at the bottom, colour next to it, then glaze, then drawing, then mask. So it's important to get them in the right order. Okay. Now what we also need to do is set the blending options for each layer. So I'll just go through them one by one. Mask stays as normal. Drawing we change to multiply. Glaze we change to colour. Okay, and colour and background remain as normal. Okay, I'll explain why as we go along. Okay, another useful thing to do is if we select the drawing layer, we can just modify the levels. Okay, so if we go to, with the drawing layer selected, image, adjustments, levels, okay, and we can just, if it's particularly useful if your scan isn't as dark as you would have liked. So if you move the slider on the left here inward, it will darken the image. Likewise, if it's too dark, if you slide the slider on the right inwards, that will lighten it. Okay, so just have a play with that till you're happy with the darkness of the lines. You can OK that. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is draw a mask. Okay, so we'll go on to the mask layer here, so make sure you're on the mask layer. Just if you look at the colour swatches over here, if we just click on the default setting, which is black and white here, this little icon here, and then selecting a brush. Again, a useful tip with the brushes is once you select the brush, if on the keyboard the 2 square brackets, so the keys that are to the left of the enter key, on the second row down, got 2 square brackets on them. If you press the one on the right, it makes the brush smaller, the one on the left, sorry, larger, the one on the left makes the brush smaller. Really useful when you're painting. Okay, so you can very quickly switch brushes. So first of all, get it to a reasonable size. Make sure the black swatch is at the front here, and then we're going to create a mask by drawing a mask. Okay, so we will. So just following so it's basically creating a silhouette, a mask silhouette that covers the whole of the head. So I'm going to draw around the edge of the head here. Okay, now just for the sake of obviously time, it's not going to be perfect, but it's the technique that's important. Okay, so all the way around the edge. Okay, so we've drawn around the edge. Now if we select the paint bucket, okay, we can fill that drawing. Now you'll probably find it leaves a line around the edge. If you click again a second time, it will fill that. Now, like I said, it's not ideal this. What I would probably do, rather than filling it again, is maybe, if I had more time, go over this line with the brush. But anyway, just for the sake of time, I'm just going to refill it. You notice when I refill it, it kind of widens the line a bit, which isn't as precise as I probably would normally like. But anyway, okay, so we've created our mask. Okay, Now what we also want to do is create a gradient background. So if we go down to the background layer, okay, and then on the background layer, if we select the gradient tool, which again is on the same swatch as the paint bucket tool. Now, useful thing with gradients here, if you see the properties for the gradient tool are up here. If we double click on this swatch here, we can create our own gradient. So if we click on this swatch bottom here on the left, so I'll just find it suitable. So we'll just make a gradient. Maybe goes from a kind of a darkish orange. We click on the swatch on the right here to maybe a paler orange. Okay, so we've created our own gradient now. You'll see it appears in the swatch at the top there. We click and drag from right to left, a diagonal line that places a swatch on the background layer. Okay, once we've done that, we can lock the background layer. Okay, because we're not going to need to modify that layer anymore. Now, if we go to the mask layer and control click on the actual thumbnail image here, you see it selects our silhouette or a mask. Okay, now if we just make sure we select that layer as well. We lock and hide the mask. Now you'll see we're just left with the selection. Okay. Okay, so those two are locked. If we go down to the drawing layer, select the drawing layer now, we're basically ready to start our drawing. So just gonna now what I would suggest when you I should say painting, when you start painting, now the thing now with this is, now we've created this selection. I'll just show you. When we paint inside this paint here, it only paints inside the selection, okay, which is obviously really useful. So it constrains the painting to the face and nothing bleeds out onto the background. Okay, now what I would suggest is if we work from dark to light when we're doing this, okay, so the darker shadowy colours first up to the highlights, which is really good for creating form, three-dimensional effect. It's basically what oil, when you look at old master oil paintings, that's the technique they use. If you look at an old Rembrandt portrait, he starts with very dark colours and moves through to highlights, which is a great way of creating a very realistic effect and really realistic lighting effects. Okay, so what we'll do for the initial painting, we're going to start with a soft brush. So if you click on so obviously with the brush selected, you've got the properties at the top here. Click on the brush swatch here, and we can choose a soft brush, which are these ones that fade out at the edge. And we can choose move the slider here, or we can, like I said earlier, just click off that. Just bear with me. Or we can use the square bracket. So right square bracket, you can see increases the size of the brush. Hope you can see that. Left square bracket decreases. Okay, so we go for a reasonably large brush. Next thing we need to do is choose our colour. So if we double click on the swatch here, so I'm going to go for a kind of a, so if we move the slider up and down here, I'm going to go for a kind of flashy, I think we'll go for more of a pinky. Let me just find something suitable. No, I think we'll stay down here. So we go for pinky-ish colour. So we'll go for a fairly dark. So we'll start off with the darkest tone. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use 3 different tones of the same colour here. So I'm going to start with the darkest one, and we're just going to look. So if we think about where the light's coming from, like we did with the anatomy drawings, light's coming from the top right hand corner. So the shaded areas are going to be, so if we make sure we're on the colour layer now, make sure on the colour layer I'm going to just put in the darker colours there. Okay. Now, I'd always encourage you when you're doing painting like this, it's all about careful observation. So, you know, re-look at your research sheets or your mood boards for any images of faces, figures, just to help you with this. It's all about careful observation. Okay, so put in the darker areas there where the shadows are. Okay, so now if we double click on that colour swatch again, and I'm going to move this selector here to a sort of mid-tone. Okay, and then I'm going to go over that again. Okay, so can you see we're slowly building up form here. Okay, so I'm going to go now, double click on the colour swatch again and choose a lighter, the third and lightest tone. I mean, there's no limit, I'm just limiting it to 3 for the sake of this demonstration, but obviously you can have as many tones as you want, you know. Probably a bit too like that. Darken it a bit. Okay, now remember about varying the brush size as well, so very quickly using that square bracket, okay, we can vary the size for detailed areas, make the brush smaller. Okay. Okay, the other extremely useful tool is the zoom tool. So when you work, sorry, zoomed in too far. So when you're working on detail, you can zoom in. Now, the other extremely useful tool is if you hold down. So with any tool selected, if you hold down the space bar, you'll see the hand appears, and you can actually move the page. If you're grabbing hold of the page and moving it. To zoom out with the zoom tool selected, you just hold down Alt. Yeah. That allows you to zoom out. So again, extremely useful tools. Okay, so we built up. I'm not going to over labour it. So you get the idea here. So we've got the 3 tones. We're building up the effect of light hitting the head, and also creating form, making it more 3-dimensional. Okay. So I'll just do the eyes and the hair as well. So if we look at the eyes, so we'll zoom in on those. Okay, and select a suitable colour. So again, we'll go from dark to light, exactly the same. Select the brush. Now you can get used to using the shortcuts for the tools here as well. B is the shortcut for the brush tool. If you press B, it'll select the brush. Now that brush is too big, so again, if we use the square bracket to reduce that size down, and then I'm going to put in a darker blue for the eyes. Okay, double click on the swatch, go for our mid-tone, Okay, double click again and go for our lightest tone. Okay, basic eyes there. Okay, we can also do the eyeballs themselves. So if we go for, again, moving through tones, we're going to start with a kind of reddy colour here. I can't emphasise enough the importance of using the zoom tool here. Extremely useful. Okay, so undo. Okay, then we go for the palest tone, the lightest tone. Okay, so we've got basic eyes there. Now we'll just do the hair, again working through the tones, so we'll go for a suitable colour, start with the darker, so just go a bit darker than that, darker tone. Again, select the brush tool, B to select the brush tool, modify the size of the brush using the square brackets, put in the darkest tone first. Okay, mid-tone. Again, I'm just doing this quite quickly and roughly lighter tone. Again, this is where the mask comes in useful, because I can just paint around the edge of the mask there. It constrains it, bleeding over into the background. Okay, so we've got a basic impression. Okay, there we go. Maybe put a bit on the eyebrows as well. Okay, so you get the idea. Okay, now, so we've blocked in the main tones there. What we can also do, so the glaze layer comes in now. So if we switch to the glaze layer, this can be good for overlaying more subtle tones once you've got the basic colours in here. So on the glaze layer, make sure the brush is selected. It's particularly good for overlaying more subtle shadows or subtle highlights. You also put in maybe subtle flesh tones, so if we maybe select this kind of pinky flesh tone here. Now what you can do here is you can do this on the colour layer as well, but on here it's particularly useful for overlaying. You can just reduce the opacity a bit. Okay, and then you can just build up some of these pinkier flesh tones, extremely subtle, probably almost too subtle that, but just increase the opacity a bit. You can see that. No, increase a bit more, I think. Okay, so it's, it's fine judgment, a lot of this. You can just see a very subtle pink there. Like I said, it's great for those subtle tones. Okay, likewise, we'll show you subtle shadows as well. So if we go for maybe a blue, because you look at the colour range, apart from the eyes mainly, they're kind of towards the red end of the spectrum. So if we bring in a a bluey colour now. I'll just reduce the opacity down a bit more, and then you can really just start to work in some of these shadowy areas, the darker shadows. Alright, go back to the colour layer. Put a bit of that in. Okay, I've actually switched back to the colour layer here just to darken up some of these shadows. Probably a bit too blue that, but never mind. So like I said, you can increase or reduce the opacity on the colour layer as well. Okay, I'm not going to work over that anymore, so I can probably overdo it a bit. Okay, so you get the basic idea. Okay, and that's basically how you use Photoshop to paint.